Chaco Canyon was not an isolated desert settlement. Between roughly 850 and 1150 CE, it functioned as a regional center, architecturally monumental, socially organized, and materially connected to worlds far beyond the canyon itself. We know this not because of legends, but because of objects, materials that should not be there, and yet are. 3 lines of evidence are especially revealing: turquoise, scarlet macaws, and cacao. Start with turquoise. Turquoise appears at Chaco in extraordinary quantities: beads, pendants, mosaics, and fragments recovered from great houses and ritual deposits. What matters is not simply that turquoise is present, but that modern geochemical sourcing shows it was not drawn from a single local source. Multiple studies indicate that Chacoan turquoise came through more than one route and from multiple procurement zones, implying broad exchange relationships across the greater Southwest. In other words, turquoise at Chaco is not just decoration, it is a signature of connectivity, and likely of controlled access within Chaco's social system. Science Direct +2 Science Direct +2. Turquoise also carries meaning. Across the Southwest and in parts of Mesoamerica, turquoise is associated with water, sky, fertility, and status. At Chaco, its concentration in certain rooms, burials, and ceremonial contexts suggests it helped mark rank and reinforce authority. A material can be both beautiful and political. At Chaco, turquoise appears to be both. Archaeology Southwest +1. If turquoise demonstrates regional exchange, macaws demonstrates something even more demanding: the movement of living beings across immense distance. Scarlet macaws are tropical birds. They are not native to the high desert, and they cannot simply wander into Chaco. Yet their remains, and evidence consistent with human care and ceremonial use, have been recovered at Chacoan sites, particularly in elite contexts. Transporting macaws requires planning, sustained contact, and a chain of relationships stretching far to the south, toward the northern frontier of Mesoamerica. This is not a one-time event. It implies repeated, organized interaction. PMC +2 National Geographic +2. And macaws were not utilitarian animals. They were symbols, bright, rare, and socially charged. Their feathers, their presence, and the effort required to keep them alive would have made them powerful markers of ritual authority. In a world where prestige is often demonstrated through scarcity, a tropical bird in a desert canyon becomes more than an animal. It becomes a statement. Then there is cacao, arguably the most chemically persuasive evidence of long-distance exchange at Chaco. Residue analysis of ceramic vessels from Pueblo Bonito identified theobromine, a biomarker consistent with cacao. Cacao does not grow anywhere near Chaco Canyon. Its natural range lies far to the south in Mesoamerica. The implication is not merely that goods traveled, it is that specific, culturally meaningful substances traveled, substances often tied to ritual consumption in elite contexts in Mesoamerican societies. Whether the practice at Chaco was identical or adapted locally, the presence of cacao indicates contact with a world where cacao held ceremonial weight. NAS.org +2 National Park Service +2. What do these 3 categories, turquoise, macaws, cacao, tell us when read together? First, Chaco's networks were not purely economic. They moved high-value goods that carried symbolism, color, shine, rarity, exotic life, and ritual drink. These are the kinds of materials societies use to create legitimacy, to stage ceremony, and to define who holds authority. Second, long-distance exchange requires infrastructure, physical and social. Roads and trails help, but they are not enough. You need partnerships, protocols, intermediaries, and trust across distance. In that sense, trade is a map of relationships. At Chaco, the artifacts imply relationships spanning multiple ecological zones and cultural regions. Third, these networks point primarily south and west, toward Mesoamerica and toward coastal shell routes, rather than clearly toward the Atlantic seaboard. Scholars can document Pacific-sourced shell trumpets at Chacoan great houses, and the evidence for Mesoamerican-linked goods is robust. What we do not have is comparable, widely accepted evidence of direct Chaco trade partnerships with East Coast tribal networks. Continental exchange existed in North America, but Chaco's strongest documented ties run through the Southwest and into Mesoamerican interaction spheres. PMC +3 Cambridge University Press and Assessment +3 Archaeology Magazine +3. Finally, there is a deeper implication. Trade at Chaco was not simply about acquiring things. It was about building a center, one capable of drawing people, materials, and meaning into a single place in a difficult landscape. But such systems are sensitive to stress. When drought intensified and regional stability weakened, the same networks that once brought goods and prestige would have become harder to sustain. In complex societies, connectivity is strength, but it can also become vulnerability when the conditions that support it begin to fail. Chaco Canyon is often described as mysterious. But the trade evidence invites a more disciplined conclusion. Chaco was connected, intentionally, repeatedly, and at scale. Turquoise shows regional routes. Macaws show living distance relationships. Cacao shows ritual contact with far southern worlds. And together, they show that Chaco's world was larger than the canyon, measured not in miles alone, but in relationships. Headphone, listen closely. The artifacts still speak.